Matthew 18, chapter 6. But he that shall scandalize one of these little ones that believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone should be hanged around his neck, and that he should be drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe to the world because of scandals. For it must be that scandals come, but nevertheless woe to that man by whom the scandal cometh. And in shall scandalize, what that means is shall put a stumbling block in their way and cause them to fall into sin. So that, of course, is talking about scandal. I'm going to talk about scandal for a minute, and then I'm going to go into something more general. According to St. Thomas, scandal is a word or action, evil in itself, which occasions another's spiritual ruin. It is a word or action that is either an external act or the omission of an external act. Because to omit what one should do is equivalent to doing what is forbidden. As a general rule, the sin of scandal exists when one directly induces another to do a thing which he cannot do without sin, either formal or material. Like talking somebody into committing perjury, talking somebody into stealing something like that. Drunkenness, sins of the flesh. And now, you still give scandal even though the person might be induced to this act habitually or at the time disposed to commit it. So what does that mean? That means let's say somebody commits this sin, this serious sin regularly, like stealing or something. Even though he does it regularly, even though if you talk him into doing it on a specific occasion, that's still the sin of scandal. And that would, of course, be a mortal sin. That would be a serious sin. Now, giving scandal, of course, is very serious, but it involves committing a sin in and of itself. Unlike the unsinful behavior of our Lord, that the Pharisees received scandal. Remember, he said, "You're scandalized in me." And what he meant was that he didn't give scandal, he didn't do anything evil in and of itself, but that they received scandal because they got angry at him because they were usurping his power and that he was condemning the bad things that they were doing. So that's different. But also very serious and often a mortal sin is to be an accessory to another sin. So scandal is when you talk someone into doing something evil in and of itself. Whereas an accessory to sin, there are 9 ways of being an accessory. You can hand those out now. 9 ways of being an accessory to another sin. One is by counsel, command, consent, provocation, by praise or flattery, by concealment, by partaking, by silence, and by defense of the ill done. So, let's say number 9, defense of the ill done. Obviously, that's not the sin of scandal, because scandal is when you talk someone into doing something. Whereas this is, someone's already done something wrong, and you defend it. Or, you're silent. You don't say anything when you can. That doesn't mean you have to go around every single person you see doing something wrong or a sin and correct them or try to stop them. But there are instances where you are required by your position, whether it's your position as an older brother, whether it's your position as someone that has responsibility for other people, or maybe it's where your position that you are just better educated and better formed by your family or by your church than someone else. So another way we obviously counsel, that's the most like regular scandal. Command is worse, to tell someone to do something. Consent, someone discusses doing something wrong with you and you consent to it. Well, okay. Provocation, to goad them into doing it. Praise or flattery, to oh wow, that's really good. Oh yeah, we went and snuck in and saw this this radar movie, oh wow, that's really cool, or what was it like, tell me all about it. That is being an accessory to sin, and that is a sin as well. Concealment, obviously. Partaking, if you also are doing it with them, if you're the one sneaking into the movie with them. Silence, and then defense. An accomplice, what does that word mean? Anyone who actively helps or abets a lawbreaker in a sinful act. Now, from the Latin, the cum is together, and picare is to weave or to join. So think of that. Think of the word, the imagery there, to weave together. That's what an accomplice does. So you're joining what you've done with that other person. And it's different than what? Cooperating. When you become an accomplice, you're weaving your evil deed and his together. So, the reason why I thought this was important is because obviously we always try to avoid scandal. It's easier for us because we do try to keep a devout prayer life. We try to obey the commandments. So something overt as a scandal is more easy to avoid. But we all do this. I find myself doing a lot of these every day. That when we're an accessory to someone else's sin, even if it's just the silence. And granted, I'll give you an example. I have friends, that I've known for years, I grew up with, and they cuss a lot. They even blaspheme. They use our Lord's name in vain. And I used to say, don't say that, don't say that, don't say that. But they just to spite me, they'll say it more if I say something. So it's actually better for me to remain silent and not say anything, because they know how I feel, than it is to say something and just make them do it even worse or even more, just to tick me off. But remember that when we love someone, we will his good. We're not talking about romantic love, we're talking about real love. We will another's good. So if we have a friend, we want that friend to avoid sin. Just like we want to avoid sin, we want to go to heaven. Father Tron used to say that kids, Father Augustine, at St. Teresa's, that you shouldn't, if you're going to engage in illicit, sexual behavior, if you're going to have sex with someone, you wouldn't want to have sex with someone you love. You'd want to have sex with a person you hate. Because what you're doing is you're adding on to the punishment of that person in hell. So, when we're an accomplice with someone's sin, we are obviously not avoiding sin, and we are required to do that. And it's not enough to avoid sin, we must also avoid the occasions of sin. If we have a firm purpose of amendment, and what is required when we go to confession to be absolved? Firm purpose of amendment, right? If we desire to do better, we must be resolved to avoid everything that will lead us to sin. It is not enough to say, I will go to that place or with that person, but I will never commit the same sin again. No matter what you think now, if you go into the occasion, you will fall again. Because our Lord, who cannot speak falsely, says, he who loves the danger will perish in it. Now the occasion of sin is always the danger. And if you go into it, our Lord's words will come true, and you will fall miserably. Take away the cause, take away the occasion, and the sin itself will cease. Let us suppose the plaster on your house fell down, and you found out that it fell because there was a leak in the water pipe above, and the water coming through the wet plaster is what made it fall. What is the first thing that your father would do in that case? Well, that some fathers would do in that case. He would get a plumber to stop up the leak in the pipe before putting up the plaster again. Would it be stupid to replace the plaster while the water is still dripping? It would be foolish to engage a plasterer to repair the ceiling while the pipe is still leaking. Everyone would say that man is out of his mind. The plaster will fall down as often as he puts it up, and will take away the cause of it. And it matters not how well he puts it up. If he wants it to stay up, he must first mend the pipe, take away the cause of the falling. Now the occasion of sin is like the leak in the pipe. In the case of sin, it will very likely cause you to fall every time. Stop up the leak, take away the occasion, and then you will not fall into sin, at least not so frequently. The persons are generally bad companions. We've had talks about bad companions. But, a lot of times we think of bad companions as someone that is just notoriously, a sinner. That, oh my gosh, that's what that person does. He gets drunk on the weekends. He does this. He does these things. That's a bad companion. I'm not going to be around him. But when we, who try to do good, when we allow our friends to do things that we know are wrong, then we also are bad companions. So, those persons, generally bad companions. And though they may not be bad when alone, they are bad when with us. And thus we become also bad companions for them and occasions for sin. The end. Now, I need to attribute this to Baltimore Catechism number 4.